No. I remember like last time we got it as far back or forward,
Didn't we have to?
forward.
Yeah.
Because then this only went so far unless you have another extension cord, but the closer you get, the smaller it gets.
Oh, yeah, unless you have an extension cord somewhere.
You know. Oh, here we go. What mile?
What about this, Darren?
Yeah, that's all the way down too. There we go. Sure. Thank you, sir.
Power it down or pull it.
Hey, go ahead. I'll be like, faster.
After you power it up.
Everybody got loud.
You gonna fire us?
No, they're my age.
I was hoping you'd find it insulting and fire me. Darren's breaking.
We had to power it down. I don't say what you can, it's not raising on me.
I can't see it. I'll put my table too. The owl. We're on it.
Workshop to order.
We're gonna need to have some lights on, I think.
So.
Light.
Yeah, I do too.
That's my background.
Doesn't it have a,
Why is it not closing?
doesn't it have a little outlet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was adjusting there.
It's not gonna get any smaller, is it?
It could, yeah. That's about it right there.
Well, we'll see how the PowerPoint.
I can go out of here.
You should have a zoom.
Yeah, that was.
It'll make it bigger.
Yeah, that's all the way
Zoomed
down.
all the way down.
We're trying to zoom it out. Zoom it in. All
You're
right.
supposed to sit
You want me
right
to bring
on
it up a
mine.
bit or is that
Zoom
good
in.
for
It's
you?
right here.
And.
You have the little book to put under it, maybe?
Is the leg not working?
There's a button.
Let's go. They'll adjust, right? It's- Yeah. You hit that button, it just.
Well, we'll make it.
Yeah, close enough for government.
That's.
Yeah.
Focus.
Yeah, I did that and it.
Oh. There you go.
That's what
You're being recorded.
That'll do. We got what we got. All right, so this is a budget workshop as we prepare the upcoming budget for 2023. Floor is yours.
Okay, let me get my PowerPoint up and running. Share my screen so those that are online can see it as well. Let's start from the beginning.
That's not gonna work. Cause you're gonna show like you should.
No, that's the slideshow.
Oh.
So this discussion will be on the general fund. This is a draft budget. It is in no way final since we have not balanced yet. let's go to the first slide. This first slide is actually on revenues. It shows the history from 2019 all the way up to our appropriated amounts for 2023. So you can see there is a little bit of an increase, most of it being in taxes. Here. So I estimate that revenues are roughly 9% higher than 2022 due to the fact that we are not getting the ARPA funds this year. We did receive those this year and last year, and that is all we're getting for that. Sales tax, B&O tax, and utility tax are where the biggest increases are. With inflation, obviously sales tax increases and so does B&O. Utility taxes, with everybody catching up on the utility bills, because the moratorium's no longer in effect, those have increased as well and have been much higher than we have anticipated. And we're also estimating a $10 per month increase for EMS fees, which I'll go into a little bit more here. But as far as everything else, it's right in line with 2022. Here's our expenditures. You can't really see the total at the bottom for 2023, but it's $2,276,424. That's a difference of $230,115 that we still have to cut from the budget. I mentioned the EMS fees. One of the biggest expenses we have in the 2023 budget is the contract with Aberdeen providing EMS services to the city. We currently collect $6.75 per household that you see on your utility bills. That only roughly equates to about $70,000 a year. And we're looking at, hold on, I'll tell you real quick. Sorry about that. We look at roughly paying Aberdeen for the whole year of $265,000. So that's a huge difference. So we have to do something to help offset those costs. So I am proposing to the city council an increase of $10 a month, which covers another $90,000 of it. So it doesn't cover it all, but it helps with the hit to the city. And I'll be asking for a meeting with the finance subcommittee so we can discuss that, plus the other options before we come back to the city council. Police wages are going to go up 3.5% for their union contract. Our fuel costs this year are nearly double from the prior year. Plus, the state is going to be raising gas taxes another 43 cents come January 1. So that's going to be a huge hit. Of course, the fire department costs are up about $250,000 due to the contract from Aberdeen. Plus, there's other equipment that they need to get the department up to the standard that it should be. Our insurance is going up 15%. And in all these budget numbers, I'm only setting aside $120,000 for reserves, even though our policy states 15%. But there's no way with this budget we can do that. Like I said, we're already $230,000 in the hole. And if I triple this, that's just not going to work. Here is the inflation rates from January 2020. So just prior to the pandemic till September, you can see how costs have steadily risen. And that's what's causing the deficit in the budget. Costs are rising way faster than revenues are. So our revenues can't keep up with that cost. So I am asking all department heads to really keep a bare basic budget till we see what the economy is going to do. We don't know if we're going to be going into a recession. Fed's raised interest rates again today, another 0.75%. And so we're really in a whole lot of unknowns at this point in time. So I've emailed out a lot of information to the council, to the department heads, and I want to know what questions you guys have for me or any suggestions you guys have and how you'd like to move forward.
You talk real quick about, you were mentioning that $10 per month increase. Was that on the EMS fee?
That's on the EMS fee that appears on the utility bills.
And what was the estimate that
Roughly $90,000.
So. So I mean, I would imagine our biggest expense is people and not necessarily
that's the next biggest expense is labor costs. And like I said, as far as the police are concerned, that's part of their union contract. So that's non-negotiable. As far as the rest of the city staff. We may have to hold off and see what happens with revenues and take another look at it. Come mid-year, when we see what the first half of the year does. And get a better idea of how the economy is.
So I mean, even if a EMS increase was passed, we're still looking at 140,000 roughly. Right now,
Yes,
I mean, we have two departments running at a labor deficit.
mhm.
I'm just thinking out loud.
Jim, Stana, Ray, Candace. Yeah.
We were looking over some of the budget numbers and seeing what can tweak here and there, but. There's not a ton of wiggle room. Looking over it, kind of hope that there would just be something that would stand out or. But. Costs are costs and costs keep going up.
So 140,000, I mean, roughly equates, and granted, different positions cost different amounts of dollars, but. I would say roughly two positions then. After insurance and
It would depend on the position,
one
but
or 1.5 positions roughly, just to equate it to,
roughly,
not saying that that's what we're looking at, but just equating it to something tangible.
and our staffing levels are such that we can't cut any.
Yeah,
Right.
There's no way that's gonna happen,
Right.
you know, without losing services. You just couldn't do it. But most of the expenditures really fall in line with this year's. So in essence, we have cut back in that aspect, you know. There's
We're
not much else.
Trying to make up from basically what we got at the Aberdeen for.
That's part of it, but it's not all of it, because like I said, fuel costs have doubled from the prior year. Everything's going up, like insurance at 15%. But revenues aren't up 15%. They're up 9%. So you create this deficit from that alone.
But about 80% of it is still. Is that?
That's a chunk of it. Out of a $2 million budget, the $2.2 million budget, that's 200 something thousand dollars.
Like 10%.
Yeah, 10%.
But it's 80% of the deficit.
Yeah, not really 80% of the deficit, because I'm asking for the increase in the EMS fees to
right.
offset it.
I'm just putting it in
But-
perspective.
Yeah, but
It's a big hit.
it is, but that's really only a portion of the deficit. Small, or not small, but probably half of it, maybe the most.
Well, and we don't really have options on that. Right now either.
No, now, you know, say for example, we get 6 more volunteers and we've got a staffing of 10 in the volunteer fire department. That may be enough to be able to sever the contract with Aberdeen, which would then alleviate some of this excess. But at
What's
this point in time, we can't count on that, so I need to budget as if
right?
it doesn't happen.
What's the amount budgeted for that this year? For the fire coverage?
For fire, or for EMS. Fire is different. They bill us separately for fire and it's on a per call basis. For
guess
example,
it'd be
I got a
the
bill
EMS.
today from fire. They had 2 calls they responded to last week, I believe it was, or the week before. And the total bill for both those calls was less than $200.
So it'd be the EMS, then what would that go back down to then?
That's up to Aberdeen. And also on these costs that I've budgeted for are based off the cost they charge us for this year. I have not seen any new numbers yet from the city of Aberdeen, so that could go higher.
Okay.
But they haven't finalized their budget numbers yet
They're-
either.
They're saying it's probably gonna be later this month before we will see that. We're waiting for a few things to shake out a bit better.
While we're contracting their services, are they waiving or still charging us the $70,000 a year for availability?
We do not pay the 70,000. We pay 21,000 a month versus the 70,000 a year.
Okay.
So
So if we.
So for this
theoretically-
year, we don't have to pay that for
Correct.
22. And looking
So
at that, I
basically-
mean, if we don't get fully staffed, we will not have that charge in 23 also, right?
Correct. So what happened for 2022? It was in March when Aberdeen started charging us the 21,000. So for January and February, they prorated that 70,000 for those first 2 months.
So if we did get to 10, theoretically, it could go back to the 70
Correct.
for the availability. Or remove altogether, depending on the abilities of those
Mhm.
Say
additions.
it's mid-year, they would prorate it.
They would prorate it
They
then if
could.
they went back
They
to the
could.
70 or
And that's
whatever
what
they
they're-
chose to
They
charge.
want to do a 6-month, potentially, 6-month contract. So therefore, we'll review it at that time. If we're ready, if we have enough people in place. And if it happens sooner, then great, we could terminate the contract as well.
I just hate to budget as if that happens and then it
Yeah.
doesn't. Because I don't want to set us up for failure.
Where
When it
are
comes to the
reserves at right now?
We have roughly 450,000. I don't really want to tap into that.
No, I'm just wondering because I know at one time it was very low.
At the end of 2020, it's 2020, yeah, $511 is what we have.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So we have come back around, but the majority of that is the ARPA funding
Mhm.
that brought it around.
Does, do expenditures out of that count? Is that council action?
Out of reserves, yes.
Mhm.
Forgive my ignorance, what's our, where does that?
The American Rescue Plan Act. So it was coronavirus money. The city received $232,000 in 21 and in 22 for lost revenue. I forget you weren't here during that time.
I was out here, didn't pay much attention to that because it didn't.
From here, Julie, when we break off into our subcommittees like Public Works, police, fire, et cetera, do you want us to, as we're going through their budgets, needs, and then we'll be coming back and, I mean,
So like this budget is the general fund. So as far as public works is concerned, that's mostly parks and cemetery. So the next go around, you will have your stormwater, water and sewer and streets.
utilities.
So all the utilities. We'll be going over those the next go around. But general fund is usually the most difficult one because of all the little entities that's in there. And trying to make it all work. But before the pandemic. We were doing okay, that there weren't too many issues and we had to trim a little, but no big deal. But since the pandemic set us so far back, it's like starting over again. You guys have anything to add? Kyle?
I was just gonna add, if anybody's watching online and wanted to kind of see the presentation or some of the details, they can come into City Hall. Camera
Absolutely.
doesn't always focus on the screen, so.
Right. So I can print off the slideshow for anybody that wants it. If there's anybody who would like more details on the budget. Please let me know and I'll get you copies of all that.
All right. We'll move into item B on the workshop and the RV and oversized vehicle ordinance that we had discussed. So this came up for at least some discussion. Was taken back to public safety and some tweaks. And in your packets is the ordinance as presented currently. So just wanted to go around and get comments, questions, adjustments, what people would like to see on the council before we get to possible action a little bit later this evening. I assume everybody had a chance to kind of take a look at it and see some of the changes. So I guess the overall backstory is this would be an ordinance that would limit recreational or oversized vehicles parking on city streets, RVs, large trailers, boats, things of that nature. And create some rules within the municipal code that would cover those. Did I cover that, chief?
Well, you want me to go?
Yeah, as much as you'd like.
All right, so the last time we talked, the other thing we talked about was extending it to 7 days possibly. In consideration of talking with the Public Safety Committee, we reverted that back to 72 hours. 72 hours is just too hard to police. It falls in between shifts and it's just not one of those things. Don't get me too wrong, it's not like a difficult thing, but you go post the notice and you give the guy 72 hours to monitor 7 days, that activity. Is a little ridiculous in my opinion. If they need more time, then they could come down and apply for a permit, which we set the rate. I believe it was $25, is that correct?
Yes,
$25. The addition was the oversized vehicle, because as someone brought up, the whole food truck, scenario, etc. But I would like you guys to consider one thing. And that's like the bucket trucks. If you work for Comcast, some of the other large companies that have those type of vehicles, and they give those to you to take home. Do they, Jim, would you know if do they just say, hey, take it home and you're expected to find a place to park it, or do they say
Yes, that,
Oh.
I would think. I mean, I'm just thinking of the. probably
Like Joe, yeah,
Joe,
yeah.
That's his,
that's it, that's what
that's where he's dispatched out of, I would imagine.
Right.
From home, so.
But I imagine if this law existed in Aberdeen, I don't know where you'd find parking. So. Additionally, I think it's a fair law as proposed, and again, it's not one of those things that like we're acting in accordance to some initiative. This has been brought up by complaints over the last couple of years from citizens over and over and over again. And it's become the issue to where the police department has looked at our CMC, our municipal code, right? As a whole, and there's a lot of actual contradictions within that, as is. And so we're trying to clean it up, and each of us are taking it upon ourselves to go through it and take it step by step. And this, I think, is a pretty good first attempt at and doing just that. So are there any questions other than the time framing, cost perhaps, who would facilitate permitting? Anything like that?
So where does it allow in this for your mechanics, your telephone, TV, UD workers to take a bucket truck home?
Yeah, if it's gonna be like on a permanent basis, that would be something we need to discuss, because if it's over 72 hours currently, then they would have to apply for the permit. So, I mean, one option off the top of my head would be they'd have to park that in their driveway and their car out on the street.
But that, I mean, I'm thinking of
Oh, I
a
get it.
mechanic's truck over here that the guy, that's his job, his livelihood, he parks it
know.
on the street. But if he takes a long weekend, it's there for 4 days,
Yeah.
he's penalized.
Yeah. I mean, this, like I said, this is up to you guys to discuss, come up with options. This is what we got. So,
What is our current
that's-
municipal code read?
basically, you can't have an RV on the street. And if you do, then it's not supposed to be there, but it's really written to where it's very hard to enforce, because on one statute, it's an infraction, the other statute is a criminal citation. So, and then the conveyance for allowing people to stay at prolonged is another addition to one of those statutes or CMCs.
It seems like our big focus is on the RVs and trailers, and it's not so much work trucks and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's like the real meat and potatoes of it is recreational vehicles,
Yeah.
recreational.
So if you don't want that considered, you can actually just recommend that. That whole oversized vehicle section be stricken.
So I'm gonna say, what do you consider an oversized? Because really a mechanic's truck's not an oversized vehicle. Neither is Joe Wolf.
This is exactly what you said. So like a bucket truck, so Joe's would be, if it was a bucket truck. for instance.
No manufacturing, that's 150, so.
Right, right.
Yeah, not, that's where you're.
Don't we currently allow 72 hours for loading and unloading?
That
I think that's what the code reads.
Who permitting who would be responsible for that, city hall again, or what?
basically.
That would be a police.
If somebody wanted that permit.
Oh, the permits would be,
I'm sorry, yeah.
yeah, city hall would have to issue their permits and all that fun stuff and do all the reporting to the police department. So they know who got permits and when and all that good stuff, when, where, how,
Extensions. He doesn't-
yeah.
Anyway, if you guys would like to discuss this at a workshop.
Yeah.
Pass it as is, got any questions, that's all up to you, but I'm here for your convenience
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Oh, I know, I meant
Yeah,
during the meeting.
but yeah, we got 20 minutes left to talk about it.
I'm at the same place I was at before. I feel if there's places within the city, I get around the school where there's high traffic areas to and from. Putting signage up in those locations, no parking, between these hours. To me would be more enforceable than who's gonna be the parking police. I mean, to me, this is like, gonna be very tough to enforce. I understand. The situation, but. Who's gonna mark tires every 3 days, and then you get 7 days per quarter and tracking and. Well, he's already parked it for 7 days this quarter, so he's gotta
Right, that's why.
move it and,
Reduced it down to 72 hours continuous. Yeah,
but. Then if he gets a permit, it's there for 7 days.
so this
per
is how it would
quarter.
be policed. Someone would complain. Or we would see something there that just stuck out, we're not doing that focused or, it's one of those things where when it's brought to our attention or we observe it, then we would put a notice on it. Say, hey, here's a reminder that the last date's. Just like we have the little warning signs, just to bring it to your attention. So that gives you, that would to us start the ticker time, we mark the tire. And 72 hours from that point, that vehicle can't be parked anywhere else in the city. It can stay there for 72 hours, but then it can't be on the street anywhere else in the city. So you can't play the hopscotch game,
Yeah.
like moving it around the block. Or anything like that. It'll be in your driveway. But it can't be on the street. So. The intent of it is when you buy an RV or a trailer, you're supposed to have a place on your property to store it. And that's how it is. And this is just a law to enforce it. You don't get a public right.
Or they could end up parking them on. First Street. Right?
Do what?
Can you enforce the parking on First Street
As far as
this?
Yeah.
On the
it
highway?
would be anywhere within the city. Now, that's a state highway, but it's still within the city.
Darren, when did it change
I'm looking
to
that up,
where?
but just to answer your
Okay.
question, there is a definition of the oversized vehicle, which includes RVs, trailers, things like that. It didn't really get into the current definition of maintenance vehicle, bucket trucks, things like that. Those are all things that you can look at. I looked at the date 2001.
No, I was just going to ask, we've, in the past, I'm saying a few years ago, it was never like this, the people that were responsible for trailers and RVs and stuff like that were expected to put down some kind of pad, a containment pad and things that, when did that change? Or did just everybody keep start ignoring?
There's just so many more RVs. That industry, it's just gone crazy.
It never changed. The requirements.
So,
Just that it's easier to park on the street than to look at a giant load of pea gravel and set aside a place in your own
Right.
property. I get that, I understand it. But, and again, we're only responding to citizens.
Right.
I don't have a problem whatsoever with stuff being on the street. That's not my agenda. My agenda is to do what the law says and what the people of the city, when they complain, bring it to your attention. In this case, there's something that could be articulated through the law and put before you for possible passage into our CMC for an enforceable code. And so that's what.
Has there ever been any thought given to no parking this side of the street? On various streets? I mean, I just came,
Certain streets.
yeah, I
there
just
are.
came down D Street to get here and 2 blocks away. I had to squeeze between just vehicles parked on each side. There weren't any big vehicles, just regular vehicles, but there was no way that even a bicyclist could come by me the other direction. That narrow. These streets are so narrow and we all know that, but I just didn't know if everybody even considered it. Some, at least some of the main streets or some of the.
It actually has, we talked about it. And it all depends on what side of the street you live on.
Well, yeah,
You know, if you live on the side that's gonna have parking, you're for it.
yeah.
But if you can't park outside your house anymore, you're not for it.
Yeah,
And so,
and everybody, if you block off one side, everybody who's parked on that side is just gonna park on the other
that's
side.
right.
Yeah.
We ran into that at the most minor level when we implemented a no parking. What was it, about 40 or 40 feet?
Yeah.
45 feet up on top of Holly Lane.
Yeah.
And we put that there because it was at the crest of a hill around the blind corner, and we've had 2 accidents there within 6 months. Specifically because the sun was setting and the person coming up the hill could not see. And when we implemented that, before I did that, I went house to house, up and down that street and around the block, got written opinion as far as would you be for or against. I had 2 against and everybody else for. So we put it in. Boy, did everybody change their mind quick, and they were not happy. Because that's exactly what happened. Everybody who was parking there started parking in front of everybody else's house that was for it. And then they wanted me to do something like that. It's a public street. Well, if I'd have known, then I wouldn't have voted. So, okay.
Yeah, there's not a public street, there's no spots for
Right.
anybody. just
So to
because
make
you live
everybody
there doesn't
happy,
mean
we
you get
ended
to
up
park.
knocking off about 15 feet of that. To allow another car to park there. And left it as is, but just that one little. Strip caused that much of a headache.
Mhm.
And I'm sure this will too, don't
And
get me wrong. I just want to have a course of action when someone comes into the office and says, hey. You know, have you noticed? I can't, you know, it blocks it. Here's the most common thing. It blocks the line of sight. I can't see. I don't want to run over a kid. You know, that's the most common, makes sense to all. And we've gone up to those people and said, hey, boom, you know, could you, oh yeah, we'll move it, we'll move it. Never happened. So,
And we have, I mean, in the municipal code now, so you can't have oversized vehicles, can't block the view, no no site obstructions, and they kind of have to be stored off-site, but there, it does give you 2 consecutive nights per week for loading and unloading for recreational vehicles now. But like the chief said, that there's the inconsistency, is it a citation or an infraction? And what is it? So we have some rules in place already, but
yeah, this doesn't limit you
Yeah.
parking for 72 hours straight. Right? It doesn't limit you from parking there. And then going on a vacation. And then coming back and parking there again and then loading your stuff and then moving it into a. You know, wherever you're gonna store it or under your storage pad or whatever.
so it's almost, it's actually less restrictive than what we have.
Yeah, it's basically when we mark it. You know, it's been there over 72 hours, and then if we mark it and make the complaint. Then you've received a warning and have to tell them. Good to go. You know, you could do. Whatever,
Civil action.
You know, that's not,
That's
even-
in 10/24, if anybody's listening and wants to.
yeah, I don't even think that that particular statute is codified in. You can't write a citation for it because it's not in stone. Or second.
Are most parking tickets not in sector though?
No, everything that we can write a ticket for is in sector, including our municipal.
How does that information get into that system? Because
Because
I only deal with. the
Ideally, what it
codification.
goes for is, when it's codified, then it goes to the court clerk. Will interact with sector and. What's the court one? Updating both databases. And then that becomes something that we can cite. Until then,
It's called JIS.
say JIS, until then, they kick it back to us and say, hey, you can't do anything with this. And
So when ordinances are submitted to be codified, should court be notified at the same time?
yeah, they should.
Yeah,
receive
if it's a crime or
Okay.
a civil infraction.
Absolutely, yeah. That way, those databases can be updated and then citations can be issued. Yeah, I tried winging it and picking the closest thing and then putting in the comments, this is the actual statute. She goes, no, it doesn't work like that. You know,
You
but
can-
now that,
you can still write a handwritten citation. but-
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which actually, I wrote the handwritten citation. She kicked that one back to me saying that CMC wasn't in JIS.
So, yeah, so that's the big problem is that the current one's not.
Who did that?
Tracy.
Well, she should have put it in GIS. Yeah.
I think in her defense, that particular one was one of those, it existed and had a infraction amount and a citation. It was double-ended.
Okay.
And our particular CMC has a lot of those cross references that I'm discovering. I don't know why they exist. Actually, it has a whole chapter 12 that doesn't exist in our CMC. So it's in or vice versa. It's in CMC, but not in sector or JIS.
But Tracy could enter that though, couldn't she?
Yeah,
Yeah, if it's got a penalty list.
yeah, I think that's one of the problems. This says it's a civil infraction, but it doesn't give them an amount.
This one's $75 here, but that
No,
one
it-
But
doesn't.
in the
yeah, the
code.
old-
Yeah,
the old
exactly.
one,
So,
yeah.
So what do I do with that?
Yeah, it
Can't
needs-
we just add a?
It needs to be,
Fix this
yeah,
one?
it could be amended, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again.
Well, you can amend it, but then you're back to your
Anything
original
that
problem, because it's not, because they can move it 10 feet and then you're just back at the same problem we're in now anyway. That's the problem.
Yeah, I just, it would need some brush up to include some of the verbiage here. I guess the main intent is to stop people from playing the hopscotch, going with
Yeah.
the trailers. And just bring it home to where. Like you go or buy an RV or whatever. Then you're gonna have to either find a place to store it or make room on your own property, etc. You have to make a conveyance. It's not a city.
Need to be a responsible owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
the,
guess one of my fears in this thing is that. You have a habitual offender that's been parking, say whatever, their widget's been parked
Right,
since they've owned it.
right.
Okay, now they get cited and they start going, but what about him and him and her and him?
That's what
and
happens
him?"
now.
Yeah, exactly,
That's what
but,
happens that.
but soon as they get a $75 ticket, they're. Gonna be on fire and be bringing you list of other trailers,
That's
shop
fine.
trucks, work
I
trucks
mean,
that are.
that goes with everything though. That's every law.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's part of the job though.
But
the
But
current,
because someone does that, doesn't change the fact that it would be still a violation.
I understand.
Yeah, and yeah, it's gonna be a headache, just like I said, and yeah, this is gonna do it too, because it happens with everything, you know?
Yeah.
I was down issuing parking tickets at the school today. The guy parked in the crosswalk says, well, everybody. I'm like, not everybody in this town does it. So I mean, and then, you know, it's one of those things, so we'll just deal with that when it comes. I just need the tool, an enforceable tool. So that, you know, everyone is a case by case basis.
Yeah.
You know, some guy just buys his thing and he's got it out on the street and comes and gets a building permit, and they're like, in 3 weeks, we're gonna build a pad and store your thing. I'm not gonna give him a ticket because he violated 72 hours. So. But I have told several people to move their RV multiple times. And I've been ignored for them. Similar to the, you shouldn't live in your RV ordinance, it's on private property too. You have a real hard edge to it. I don't have a perfect answer.
Trying to think of the simplest way to be able to do attack that. To rewrite most of it, or just put in the amount of money for the permit, or not the, for the length of stay, and the hotspot, you guys should call
I mean,
it, attack those two main issues, whatever would be
What's the
easier
CMC
to.
number on that?
1024. 1024 is the oversight. So, I mean, it's on the agenda tonight. So, I mean, the council, they choose, pass it as is, can amend it, can send it back for further review to a committee.
Because we could also take the pertinent verbiage out of here if you can find it. And bring that one up to speed. Through an amendment. Would that be the easier way to do it, Steve, or would it be easier to take that one off the books and put a new one on?
There's a few things like oversized vehicles. Seems like. Oversized, so work trucks, things like that. Loading and unloading between 6 AM and 11 PM currently, and recreational. For 2 consecutive nights per week. For loading and unloading,
Yeah, and
overnight.
the existing one talks about parking it on your own property too.
Yeah,
Do we need to put something? I'm thinking about the worker guy who's got a shop truck. And the bucket truck, do we need to, if the vehicle is used for work? Shall none of this should apply, or does all of it apply?
Currently, it does not.
Currently, but
So that would be a decision you'd have to make. If, what all you want to include, the draft here does talk about that, so. Those are things you could narrow down.
Yeah, I'm giving you all the options. You can make suggestions if you want to, how you think it fits the community best.
the current definitions, oversized vehicles are. No, never mind, I was gonna say. They were a little too specific, but that's just a portion of the motor vehicle, so.
by GVW. I mean. I don't know. You got a log truck parked on First Street, hauls 88,000 pounds, obviously he's not using G Street. But a 26,000 GVW shop truck, I don't know. I don't wanna see the working guy like, well, I can't bring my truck home anymore, I gotta leave it at the shop and use his personal vehicle, or the neighbors get cited for something and they, well, he brings his truck home and, well, that's oversized.
Yeah, again, he would probably just have to simply just swap, but it's still a pain in the needle.
Yeah, he may not have a swapping spot.
We got a minute before the council, for the official council meeting, but
I'd just like to see left dress on. The police. And the staff at City Hall. And. Beat that one up.
so. it is on the agenda tonight, so we can have more discussion on that, but, give everyone, end the workshop. Got a minute or so before the official meetings begins.
Isn't there? It seems like the railroad, they removed the railroad tracks and they were trying to decide what to do.
When you say someone.
Second Street, and there was some. Putting the. Volumes began to increase. They said the fire station said that they didn't keep it there.
Help us, but no.
Be harder for the fire to come through. And things like that. The Woodcraft Street and
There's limitations on certain streets. I didn't really look at where they're at. I mean, the school specifically, but, yeah, there's some other restrictions in certain areas. The block right there, it gets tight and it's. I am, sorry, it wasn't very long, but,
That's why I was thinking, but there was other.
Also, you can't write it.
calling the official regular city council meeting to order this evening. We'll start off with the flag salutes. And if we can have our newest Cosmopolis residents start us off. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation.
Sing the national anthem.
Solo of O Canada. You can't just.
I know the first two words.
We will go to roll call.
Councilmember Marcus,
Present.
Councilmember Carlisle,
Present.
Councilmember Ansich,
Present.
Councilmember Robinson,
Present.
Councilmember Wenzel.
Present.
And department heads are in. Approval of the agenda as presented this evening. It's council's pleasure.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? So passed. Public comment period. It's a public comment time for anyone to talk about anything on the agenda tonight. So if you would like, we just ask that you state your name and you've got 3 minutes.
You can't see the agenda.
There's a paper copy right up there on the counter.
And there's another public comment period later in the evening as well. We will close public comment and move on to the consent agenda, claims, vouchers, and meeting minutes from the October 5th council meeting and the October 19th council meeting. Council's pleasure.
Make a motion to approve vouchers and the minutes.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Ansich, second by Councilmember Robinson to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? So pass. Committee reports, Finance Subcommittee.
All right, so we talked about this in the workshop earlier, but we began our discussions for the 2023 budget cycle. And talking about the challenges that we're seeing with that. Later on in the agenda, we have 2 things that we talked about in the budget subcommittee meeting. We talked about the auto pay software for the water bill. And then we talked about Archive Social, which is a program that archives social media content for the city.
Thank you. Public safety.
All sorts of things. Let's see here. So we discussed municipal building move, so here soon. The police station, the police members will have to move out of their current building because construction will start for the new police station. So right now, we're talking about the logistics on moving temporarily the police staff over to a portion of the fire department over here next door. And those talks continue, but it's getting worked out. We touched on this earlier in the workshop about or I guess we didn't, but we talked about the E911 fees. There's gonna be an increase in fees this year for that as well, which is also part of the budget. And then talked about potential to add another chaplain to our fire service. So that's just a discussion that we're continuing on later on. On the law side, we beginning talks about 2023 budget and the need for a 6th officer. Also talked about our current staffing levels. We're down an officer. We also talked about, is there potential that Aberdeen or Grace Harbor Sheriff's Office could have some sort of shift coverage? So that's just something we're exploring due to our officer shortage. And then on the fire side, we did have our first official drill last Monday. So that's very exciting. So we met up and worked on some things over there at the station. And they have responded to a few aid calls now. So we do have trained personnel starting to respond to things in the city. So it's very exciting to see. Also, I believe on the agenda, yes, it is later tonight. We talked about moving the boat over there at the fire station to surplus. Talked about over there, there's a fit test machine for the respirator. They need to be tested annually. From what they can tell, it's never been tested. So that is something that has to be done with their equipment. That works for all respirators. So even if you're not in the fire service, if you're in construction or whatever, you have to have fit test checks. So not only do the people get tested, but your equipment needs to be tested to make sure that it doesn't leak, because if it doesn't leak, it doesn't work. So that machine needs to get tested to make sure that it works, and that's something that needs to be done annually. So I think we're getting an estimate on that, I think is where we left off. We don't know what it would cost right now.
Nick was thinking 1,100, if I heard him correctly. But he's checking into
But
that.
so-
Earmark.
Yeah. and
Yeah,
see if
we
there's
haven't
a-
made-
See if there's a joint thing, just discussions.
Yeah, I haven't made action. It's just another one of those things that we're looking into over there. EMS service fee. The EMS training center. This is very convoluted for me to try to explain because it's not written down, but that is something that Grace Harbor Transit used to pay over the years. And
The county paid through Grace Harbor Transit.
I knew I'd get that wrong.
Yeah. Trauma center.
So the gist of it is those costs are being directly billed to the cities and fire districts. And there's an invoice that was mailed yesterday, approximately $1,700 that we're going to be receiving. And that we have to pay. So that was
So
another
it's not
cost.
something we can opt into is. just
No, I
pay there.
asked.
This was, every region has trauma centers they handle. So any of our EMTs, any paramedics within the county all fall under Dr. Buck and the trauma center's license and everything. It's a it's a requirement unless we wanted to pay to have our own, which we do not. So it's just a mandatory thing. When it was first created back in the 70s, the RCW allowed for transit for ambulatory and things like that. Every other county in the state has adjusted out of this prior. Grace Harbor was the last one to do so, and when the auditor found that they were just filtering money through, it was very gray that you could do transit. But the intent, I believe, was for ambulance transit, not transit. So the funds were coming from the county. or coming to transit and then going to the county and going out. The auditor did not like that. And so this has been something for
Several years,
five
yeah.
years or
5
so,
years,
has been a
yeah.
discussion of this needs to change, this needs to change, and it came to a head and it's now changed, but it's a requirement that we kind of
Yeah.
have to have this oversight.
So
Yeah,
that's,
oh,
yeah,
Sorry. Okay, just on that one subject there, talking with Attorney Johnson today and talking with Nick as well. One of the things we want to make sure we know what we're getting for that money. They are going to pay for all of our training. It is a good thing. They're going to do a lot of good things for us, but we need to have that in an MOU, or like Steve and I talked
The
about, either a contract with them. So therefore, we can tell the citizens, okay, this is what we're getting for that money. You know, if you prove it, that's what we're getting for it. But our department would benefit greatly from it because of the training, the certifications they can help them with. Some of the bigger departments, it may get a different vote, but we really think we need to have some documentation, and I know it's been discussed, so.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing discussion between the mayors and some of the fire departments of. Can't just take money and just say, okay, here's your money, you do what you do. And not have that oversight. So there's been a lot of discussions of MOUs of. Is it a reimbursement or is it how to set it up? So this has been it's been a long process, but chances are the MOU that is going to be for us is going to be very similar to the MOU that's going to be in all 9 cities.
Well, they're also gonna charge fire districts.
Yes.
Yes.
Fire districts and all, of them. So everybody has to fall into this. There's no pass-through funds anymore through transit. And we looked around to see if there was like a legislative fix that could adjust it, but every other department and county that at least I looked into has these agreements already set up and they put them in place years or decades ago. But it was what 50 years that we had kind of fallen under this very gray thing, and the auditor finally said that.
Is that the one that's?
that one's quarterly.
Yeah, it would be billed quarterly.
We also talked about the volunteer compensation program, so that is something that needs overhauled for a couple of reasons. One's for accountability, and then just to make sure that the system's fair. There's been a lot of questions that have come up once we started looking at that compensation program, so that's something that Nick and our public safety committee is working on, is to try to come up with something here soon by the end of the year. So we can implement that for 2023 and to rescind the old ordinance, I believe, resolution, and mix it up every time. So someday I'll learn. But yep, that's where we're at with that. And then bunker gear surplus updates. We're looking to, I believe, donate would be the word, a few sets to Arctic. We have a couple spare sets that's left that we kept that would fit a couple of their members, new members. So is that on the agenda?
Yeah.
Yes.
Item D.
Surplus. to turn
Yeah.
to fire pit.
So that's tonight. And then we talked about image trend updates, reporting system for fire and EMS. One of our mandatory reports actually wasn't getting to the correct agency or authority that we're finding out. So we're waiting on quotes for that software, and that sounds like something that the other cities in the county are using as well, or at least partially using, at least for EMS. And then Fire Academy EMT class, South Beach RFA was approved to hold a Fire Academy in January. So right now, I don't think we have, out of the 4 members, they're either already trained or not able to attend that class in January. But if we do gain some members before that, we have an opportunity to send new members down to South Beach RFA for training. And there's also an EMT class in January coming up too, which would, I believe, be at that training center.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so that's one of the, What's that?
Trauma center.
Trauma center, sorry. So that would
They do
be,
the training at the trauma center.
Yeah.
Right there.
I can't keep up. Resolution, yes. I think that's it. I've taken enough time.
Thank
We're
you.
good.
Go to Public Works,
No meeting.
Parks
Sorry,
and
it's really
Cemetery.
that long dissertation.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in a resolution or not. I'm in disillusion. Yeah.
Parks, Rec and Cemetery.
No meeting, no report.
Okay. And the RFA Planning Committee is, I believe, scheduled to meet next week, should be next Thursday. Moving on to city official reports, we will start off with the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to request permission to apply for a grant. And this is for smart signs through the U.S. Department of Transportation. Meaning smart sign, meaning a lighted speed limit sign. These are now becoming available for a grant. I think it was brought up when you were on vacation. Depending on the one race without me.
Oh, yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
So Deputy Chief Lehman and I had looked into this. We don't know how much it's gonna be yet. We don't have quotes. But we need to get started with the application. So to do that, I would need to have permission to be able to do so, and I would come back to you with an amount. Probably the next meeting, first meeting in December at the very latest.
Do we know about this grant? Is it a match grant, full grant?
I believe it is no match required.
Okay.
But those are the specifics I would have to. I'll bring to you for approval. I just need permission to get started.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to, for Darren to move forward with.
I second.
Moved and seconded to allow the city administrator to look into and submit a grant for smart signs. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So pass. Good find.
Just one more thing, I want to, a couple, things actually, but on the Muni building. Municipal building. I want to tag on to what Councilman Wenzel had discussed. We think we're gonna go out to bid in January. That is the plan. We'll know more here in a couple of weeks. Construction sequencing, we don't know exactly if City Hall staff will be able to still work in here while that new part is being done. And then they'll come in and remodel this. Potentially, that's not gonna be able to happen. We're gonna have to move with the police department as well over into the fire station. So that's one of the things we have looked at as well. We think we've got a good plan. The positive of doing that, to get everybody in that one building, knowing we have some issues with the general funds next year, we can save a fair amount of money in utilities. So that there in itself, it could save us $5,000 to $7,000. This building and the police department that we currently have, they're pretty costly, for heating and air conditioning and just utilities in general. The fire station itself, there is an issue with the propane that heats the furnace. That also has, electrical backup as well. That's expensive. We may be wanting to look at getting a ductless heat pump system for in there. Even if that building is to go, if we become part of the RFA, that building becomes part of the RFA as well. What we could potentially save in a year in cost savings could darn near get that system taken care of. Because even if we say in April, we approve the RFA, we become part of that, it's potentially another year in that building for us until everything's done here and we're good to go. Everybody takes over. So we're going to be getting some estimates on that system to bring to you in the next council meeting or two, just to kick it around. So there's a lot of logistics going on, and I appreciate all the department heads. Even Deputy Chief Lehman's been there, other police staff, Caitlin's been there. The fire department's been there with us, trying to work out the best possible plan. So that's been great. It's great teamwork. This weekend, Friday and Saturday, we got a big storm coming. If anybody notices backed up storm drains, please help public works guys out a little bit. They're gonna be spread pretty thin. If you see leaves on the drains, just please kick them off. We would really appreciate that. That really makes a big difference for us. That's all I got. Thanks.
Perfect. Finance director.
I don't have a big report since I talked a lot earlier this evening, and the only other items I have are under new business, so I will take care of those then.
Sorry, Steve Johnson,
I have nothing to report.
Police Chief Stratton.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Again, I'll have some business to bring. New business as well. I would like to thank Public Works Department, Jeff and his, down there for getting the radar trailer, fixed and back into service. Was it wait today or we're doing that?
No, probably not.
Okay, but we figured out a position to first deploy it, and then we're gonna start moving it around in the city. Once it start out. Focusing on important hotspots. So hopefully it'll heighten the awareness of our citizens, make sure that they monitor their speed a little bit more close. Again, this is the existing trailer we had, so it's not one of those flashy slow down, kind of ones that you've seen in the other cities, the ones that we might get on a grant, but hopefully it'll help us deter some of the speeding going on in the congested areas. Again, Officer Tenasky is effectively an Aberdeen officer again, or not again, but now. And we wish him the best. He did me a favor and dropped off a really nice challenge point they had for the Men Wear Pink Initiative. He's going to continue to do that the rest of this year. So if you know anybody who wants to donate to that particular cause, we still have a point of contact there. We're raising money. So I think he's over close to $3,000 again. I mean, the guy is a real champion for that cause. And I think that's about it for now. And I don't want to talk about giving
Interim Fire Chief Rains, anything to add?
Well, I just like to say thank you to Nick Valley and Mark Terbakia for all the work they've done in the fire department. Those guys have been just incredible. They've made a lot of headway getting things up and running. Nick was gonna be here tonight, but he's under his house fixing plumbing, unfortunately. So I just want to thank those guys. We have 4 full-time, fully operational members now. So that's a big step. And we couldn't do that without them. And I know they really appreciate the support from the Public Safety Committee as well. So we're heading in the right direction.
I'm excited to spread the word that we've got actually MPs on
Yeah.
board and they've
Yeah, 3.
already been out into
3 of
the,
the 4 are.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Public Works Superintendent.
I just want to give an update on the Highland Park. Yesterday, Lakeside was here to do the last bit of their paving and it was done to track. That's where the handicap accessible parking is gonna be. That was a big thing to get done before this weather started happening. We're waiting on now the painter. Hopefully he gets a day or two that can spray lines and everything, and we got a few bike racks, few signs to put up. Just a little odds and ends, that park will be,
It looks good.
and it's open, people have been using it, a lot of people have been using it. And that's about it. I mean, there's a lot of work, but it looks really nice, and if anybody hasn't been up there, go check it out, go use it. A lot of happy kids up there. When we're working up there, they're full of smiles, and it's really nice to see. So that's all we got.
Perfect. I'll keep my report light. First off, just Halloween, of course, on Monday, and it was nice to see so many groups kind of roaming around and seeing a lot of kids back on the street, that it was back to kind of that normalcy, and we said that a lot, but it was nice to see. speaking of that normalcy, along with the governor's announcement, with the statewide state of emergency, I had sent something out to the staff and the council, but I mean, rescinded the state of emergency related to the COVID pandemic within the city. And that ended as of 12:01 on Tuesday, and I saw that, what was it? It was 889 days that was in place. So, along with the state, we have rescinded that within the city. So any of the changes that were made, adjusting schedules, adjusting procedures and things, all of that is back to pre-pandemic status. And that is all I got. So we'll move on to new business, express bill pay. Item A.
Well, one of the biggest questions we get asked at City Hall every day is, when are you gonna get auto pay? Our current electronic payment provider is not the best. All they really do is take the payment for us. You can't really see your bill. You can't set up a true auto pay. It's just really electronic payments. So I went out to our software company, Bias, and asked who they recommended. And they recommended Express Bill Pay, which has been working alongside Bias for many years. Also, the city of Montesano, Grays Harbor County, McCleary and Elma also use the same software. And what this software does, it not only takes electronic payments, but it does electronic billing as well. So citizens would have the option to have their bills emailed to them. And so paperless billing, in essence, you can get text message reminders, email reminders. You can set up a true auto pay, and you can put a limit on that auto pay. So you can't take too much out of your account in case you had a leak or something. You'll be able to see 2 years worth of history. This is amazing software, and the best part is the cost. I thought this was gonna come in at a big number, and I'm like, no way is the city gonna be able to do this. But it's really $2,500 plus training. The amounts that we would save here in City Hall alone will recoup that $2,400 or $2,500 in probably 6 months or less. Currently, our current electronic payment provider, 30% of our citizens currently use that. With the system like this, which is what people have been begging for, I'm guesstimating a minimum of 50% of our customers will use this. With the postage costs, you know, at 60 cents per stamp on every envelope we send out, if you can get rid of half of that every month, that's huge. And the time it takes staff to print, to fold, to stuff those envelopes, and then the cost for the perforated paper, the envelopes, the stamps, the copy machine, which is 6 cents for every color copy you run through there, we're gonna save a lot of money. Now, the fees for the electronic payments will be passed on to the citizens, just like we currently do now. Their current fee through Express Bill Pay is 3%, which is the same as what PSN is currently providing. So what I'm asking today is if the council would give us permission to go ahead and get this software.
I make that software. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember Marcus, to move forward with purchasing Express Bill Pay. Discussion.
Any
Aye.
questions?
How much time do you think you spend a month on, or staff time hours?
So just for the printing of the bills, stuffing the envelopes, Cheryl spends every bit of 1 full day. And usually Christina and I will help where we can. Because we still have to cover the window and answer the phones and process other payments. But this will also eliminate a lot of errors. So currently with our current electronic payment provider, we get an email every day because it doesn't interact with our software. So we get that email every day, and then we have to manually enter it into our software. And we're all human, so guess what? We make boo-boos. This software will directly integrate with our current software, so you eliminate those human errors. And when we post a payment online, it updates immediately. So everybody can see in real time what's going on.
Is that 2,500? Is that a one-time cost? Or is this a yearly cost?
I believe it's a yearly cost.
Because they're doing that service.
Right, because that also provides a website too, so that'll link into the city's current website. So, and then, and down the road, we can also set it up to accept payments for animal licenses, dog tags. Dog tags, building permits, or any other miscellaneous
RV
type,
permits.
RV permits, for example. So it has that.
It doesn't say you. You would think.
I think it is yearly, but I will double check that. Even if it is yearly, the cost it saves
Right.
is huge. And I think as you get more of a younger population in the city, you're gonna see it go from 50 to 60% to more like 70 to 80% of the population using that.
This is the
Yeah.
only bill I have anywhere, mortgage, insurance,
hear that
anything that I have to pay by check.
Yeah.
And so I have to find the checkbook, make sure I didn't run out of checks.
Yeah. Julie, how
But
much
you have it taken
oh,
a year.
I beg your pardon.
Now,
What's that,
How
Candace?
much do we spend on stamps and on?
I buy roughly 2 boxes of windowed envelopes a month. There's 500 in a box, and that's about $700 right there.
Yeah,
And as the prices go up, it costs more. Well, we're paying 6 cents a page to print it out.
Yeah.
A ream of perforated paper is about $10 a ream. And we're going through a ream and a half
yeah,
every
but
month.
didn't we send out about 7
We send out 755 bills per month,
and the stamps on top of that.
and plus the stamps, plus the
Wow.
paper, plus the ink.
Time, plus the, yeah.
So to pay
a lot of
this
time.
is a heck of a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And also it integrating with our software,
That's
because
good.
you eliminate that human error
Well,
aspect.
that's the other thing too, is the current setup. I remember why I was doing checks. I couldn't do it from my phone.
It should have,
Well,
well, should have.
user error, but I had to,
It's not.
but it was not user friendly.
No, but there's one resident who. Since the entire time I've been office, calls me every other month or so. To talk about it, because they'll see the bill, they'll pay it online. But the bill doesn't match up with what the online is to what the actual
Yeah,
is, and so then
that's
they'll have
happening.
and it's a constant thing, and I could not agree
It's a
more that
huge-
this is something that I've wanted for a long time, and. I think we both thought that it was going to be far more expensive to
Oh, I
implement this.
I
so.
expected at least 10 grand, honestly.
So I guess I'm looking at page 2, let's see, page 11 at the bottom, it's 11.
Okay,
So the $2,500, that is the initial setup.
that's
and
the
then-
online payment module plus the training and training plus airfare.
And then page 13.
That's different.
That's the next
That's
item.
the next item. That's our.
Oh, that's the social. Gotcha. Oh, boy.
We will be wanting one credit card terminal. Over here at City Hall, so we can process payments in here for the miscellaneous stuff, or somebody who. Doesn't know how to access the online portals.
And that's $75.
That's
That's on page
75,
3.
yeah.
Speaking of the online bill pay, have you received a phone call lately about a resident getting, they're currently using the online bill pay
Through their bank or through our system.
through our system? They talked to me, 1 month their water bill was $360. The next month it was $36.
I would have to look at their account and see, but I have not got a phone call like that.
Okay.
So if you talk to them, have them give me a call.
I will.
I'll take a look. It could be a matter of timing, because with the current system, we have to create a file and upload. Cheryl usually does it about once a month, because it can take them a couple days to even post it once we upload it. So if there was a glitch in the file, or they made a payment, about the time we uploaded the file, it's not going to show. So like I said, with this system, it's gonna update in real time. So they're always gonna know what their correct balance is. If we have to make an adjustment for, say, a leak credit or some kind of billing error that occurred, they're gonna see that on there. When they first sign up for it, it's not gonna have any history. It starts from that point on, and then it'll keep 24 months at all times. And you'll see the graphs like what's on your bill, so you can see that usage. You can see your past payments and your past bills.
The mobile interfaces.
It actually, it's great to even be able to get a text message that says, hey, your bills needs to be paid in 5 days, or or whatever you set it for. It's totally customizable, which is what I like, because I do those kind of things on my own bills at home, you know, I like those reminders. Yeah, no,
Any further discussion?
yes, we're.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in
Yeah.
discussion.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Alright.
Any opposed? So pass. Item B, archive social.
Sure. Next one, Jim, that page 13.
Got
yeah. So what Archive Social does is all the city social media accounts like, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They archive every single action that occurs by create a post, any comments that are on there, even if you delete it, it's already screenshot. It can say when it was deleted with a timestamp. The reason why this is necessary is for public records. Every post on social media is a public record. We cannot delete them. And if a user deletes it, we have no control over that, but now we're missing that public record. And if the city ever gets, you know, sued for something like that, it would cost a whole lot more than that $3,588 that this invoice is for. So this is really to protect the city from future lawsuits regarding public records. And Donna, I know that you work with it and you probably have a little bit more information than I do on this.
Archive Social is basically exactly what it is. It archives all of your social media posts, and if there's ever a request that comes in, you basically have to go and search all your social media for that. So instead of going back through and one by one reading the entire post, all of the comments, all of the stuff that goes on with social media in general, you can just quickly do keyword searches and it pulls it all up, download it, off you go. Like massive time saver all time. There's so many things to it. It may sound super simple, but in the long run, you get sued over something. It's your first offense, because it's all there. And everything is time stamped and dated and
The price you're seeing is a year's worth of $2.99 a month. So that's the $35.88. So that is a year's of monthly costs in there, and it's up to 12 accounts. We only have.
We only have a handful, so we have the police, so we're gonna create a fire one.
Yeah,
I did set up a Twitter, but we don't use it.
yeah.
I
We
check
haven't
on
used it,
every
but we have
every
it.
day, and it's been up forever and there's
Yeah.
never gonna post.
No.
We do have a YouTube channel, but I have comments turned off on that.
Yeah.
Because it's just for posting meetings.
So, yeah, I mean, this is up to 12 accounts, but we're not gonna
We're
be
well
near that,
within.
and. Yeah, 1.6 thousand records per month. Yeah.
You're not
we-
gonna
Yeah,
ever
we
get that.
should be fine.
No, we're never gonna hit that.
So, the discussion, further discussion.
Is there a setup fee on that one?
No,
It's
That's
just
just
the monthly, you pay it monthly or annually?
we'll pay it annually, but it equates to the $2.99.
No.
They are also owned now by Civic Plus, which owns MuniCode, which does our codification services and also does our meetings and agenda portal on our software. So we do get a little bit of a discount for that. Just an FYI.
What's the council's pleasure?
I make a motion that we purchase this.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember Wenzel to move forward with Archive Social. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? So passed. Item C is the RV parking ordinance as discussed in the workshop earlier this evening. Does the council have any direction or?
I
actions?
would like to make a motion that we postpone it and do a little more work on it and bring it back.
I'll second that.
There is a motion to table this ordinance for now and return to the council with some adjustments as needed.
You
Amy?
say it so much nicer.
Any discussion?
Where do we want to send it?
I feel like this is a public safety issue.
My only concern with that
If you don't know, it's a resolution or an ordinance.
Yes. No, I think my big concern is,
Do we want to have another workshop and hammer it out there or?
well, that might be the way to do it, just because. If it was up to me, I would enact it how it was presented tonight. I don't know about Stana, but we have other opinions on the council, and I think those need to be heard to refine it. Since that's what we're voting on, if we approve it. So yeah, I think that would probably be the best route is through a workshop, I guess.
That I want available for the next meeting. like,
Well, we'll cross that bridge if we come to it in just a
Right.
second, so.
My rationale for seconding that motion was that there was some comments made about trying to consolidate what's already in there and what we're presenting and trying to see how we could mesh those two together to make them work as just one instead of having so many different ordinances that we can look at. And I don't know how that is look into. How would we get those two pieces and try to make one piece out of the two, join them together? I mean, that's,
Workshop.
Yeah.
that's
workshop.
what I'm taking.
Copies of the current.
And more,
Yes.
yeah, that's.
The
main.
highlighters and
Yeah.
one, yeah.
So I think it'd be good for council to bring homework with them to that workshop and say, these are the ideas for. Doing whatever. And then we hash it out, and then that way we can hopefully move forward, so.
Yeah, and we could look this up online.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any objections. to that.
So any further discussion on the motion to table? Hearing none, all in favor?
Alright,
Any opposed? So passed, table, and we'll get some information out and try to send out CMCs and the related things.
Okay.
Item D is the surplus turnouts to Fire 15.
Yes, we have a request, Fire District 15 is looking for some turnouts, to use turnouts. That they want to use for training and for some new recruits. We still have a few sets available over there. So Nick and Mark are currently going through and see what they can get rid of and think we can accommodate what Fire 15 needs, so. We need to clear out some of that stuff, because we've got plenty over there to keep for our training purposes as well. And as we take some of the current turnouts that are being used, those will go into our training stock, you know, for our guys to use. And we're gonna start to change things out over the next few years. Depending on if the RFA happens or not, we are starting that process.
How many sets of turnouts are they looking to surplus there?
Right now they're looking to see what they got. I would say minimum of 2 up to 5. I don't think we have an exact number yet, because I would say. Could we word it up to 5? Does that have to be specific?
I think up to 5 is fine, yeah, give some leeway, I mean.
They're just looking at what they've got, what they want to keep currently too.
Yeah. But we want the other ones, we don't need.
Minimum 2 up to 5.
And these are turnouts that are past their expiration date.
Yes, but and they'll be only used just like we did with Montesano for training purposes.
Is that something that has to be disclosed in there?
Yeah, definitely.
That
Yeah,
these are-
it has to be made clear they won't use them for the actual fire.
How did we get that one, Montesano? Did we get that disclosure or last meeting?
I mean, the department, I mean, they're under the same standards that we are, so they're unable to use them legally for that, so.
And they
I mean,
accepted them under that
If we
pretense.
surplus them and they accept them, and
Yeah.
they are under the same laws that we are, so they're unable to use them. There is that liability doesn't fall to us. They are well aware that they are old turnouts.
We just we need to make sure that's clear to them.
Yeah.
Did you mention some for Arctic?
Arctic Fire District 15,
Yeah.
yes.
The North River.
North River Arctic.
In
yes.
Arctic, yeah. North River and Arctic is, I
Right.
mean, it all covers up. There's the Arctic station. Is there a motion to surplus?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to surplus between 2 to 5 turnouts with the stipulation that they're for training purposes only.
Has been moved and seconded to surplus between 2 and 5 turnouts to Grace Harbor Fire District 5 and North River. Any further discussion?
I would like to add, maybe we need to circle back to the money turnouts and give disclosure on those as well.
We'll make sure
If
that,
that's something that needs to be documented, signed, I don't know.
we'll make sure that they're well. Yeah. I'm certain that Nick has handled that, but we will.
Can we just do that as an amendment to the motion? Just to make it officially official?
So you're saying to surplus between 2 and 5 turnouts, the Grace Harbor Fire District 5 and North River, and ensure that they're aware that these are made only for training purposes, and you're asking to amend to also notify Montesano to ensure that they're aware they're only for training purposes.
Absolutely.
So, on the amendment,
It's a good one.
on the amendment, is there a second on that amendment? It's been moved and seconded again by Wenzel and Robinson. Any discussion on the amendment?
Are we amending the resolution or the ordinance?
Neither.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor of the motion as amended? Any opposed? Thank you. And item E, placing the fire rescue boat as surplus and posting to GovDeals.
Make the motion that we surplus the boat.
I second.
Moved by Councilmember Marcus, second by Councilmember Wenzel to surplus the fire boat. Discussion.
Didn't know we had.
Have I got a story for you?
So, yeah, I mean, in discussion, we've had a lot of RFA meetings over there and with me talking with Hoquiam and Aberdeen staff and now our current staff. That doesn't meet any sort of standards for swiftwater rescue out on that river. So even if we had trained personnel, which they have to be specifically highly trained personnel to use a vessel for swiftwater rescue. That is not the type of vessel that could be used for that activity.
Grace Harbor Sheriff's Department does have that apparatus and trained personnel, is that correct?
They have an aluminum boat, but, I don't think they call it a rescue boat.
Yeah, Pacific.
Fishing boat?
It's
They use
enforcement.
Enforcement
Search and
Okay.
rescue.
and also
search.
recovery of
Yeah, search and recovery,
recovery.
which that one's much larger. The requirements, I think when we looked into them, it requires 3 members on board. One has to stand the wheel, one has to, and then if there is some other laydown that there's just not, it's just not the room. It's good in theory, not in practice. Further discussion. Hearing none. All in favor of surplusing our fireboat? Any opposed? So passed. Council comments. I will start with Councilmember Wenzel. We'll start on the other side of the room.
Oh, all right. I haven't had a chance to speak tonight, but yeah, I kind of hit on this almost every meeting. The park looks great up there at Highland off Dundee. And yeah, shout out to just everyone involved, volunteers and city staff. Every available minute, I think my kids have, they're up in that park. So big kudos to everyone involved. It's awesome. That's what I got this week.
Councilmember Robbins?
I really don't have too much of anything. My wife wanted to ask a question. There are a group of like 5 very, very tall trees across the street from our house on the other side of the road. And it blows leaves all over the place, unfortunately. But there was an individual that I made a comment to, and he told me that they belong to the city, who just takes care of them. Any idea what that is on?
We'd be happy to look at it. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's right off of Stanford Drive, just across the street from my house, and there's like 5 or 6 on it, but they're 50, 60 feet tall.
Has to be.
Huh?
Yeah, the ones right along the road.
Right along the road, yeah. There's some firs, I mean, some cedars,
Uh-huh.
but these are like birch trees or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a full
Sean-
choice.
Sean's place?
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
us.
yeah, right in the front area. Okay. But I was just, giving bad time because he's blowing the weeds and stuff. And I wanted him to come do my steps too, because it was all over my front porch. Driving him into my house.
We'll look at them
Uh,
and,
I didn't know.
yeah, we'll see if they're in right away and then talk to everybody.
Yeah. Chop them down a little bit. Before they fall on my house.
Councilmember Ansich.
My only question would be the RFA meetings. What's going on with the RFA? Haven't heard anything.
We should be having a meeting and they traditionally have been on the second Thursday here at the fire station. So I haven't got that I recall an official calendar, like invite or agenda, or anything for it, but the assumption would be it is 6 o'clock at the fire station here in Cosmopolis next Thursday. But that's traditionally what it has been, so I can only assume that it follows.
It's the 10th.
Yeah, and we've been going through kind of section by section, making amendments, making adjustments. It's mostly very just technical and adjusting a few words here and there to adjust us and make those accordingly.
Along with that, I guess my next question would be is when do you foresee that we should be having a public meeting for the citizens of Gazi about what's been going on in that art, to keep them informed?
Meetings are available to watch and things, and I would say that until we get to the public, right now, it's very technical. I would imagine probably January is when we'll start the, once the plan is kind of set, and then the forward facing,
But the meetings are open
information.
to the public.
yeah.
And we've had, I think the meeting before last had 3 or 4, and I think last meeting was.
Two.
Briefly.
Yeah,
Oh, right, yeah.
but yeah, they weren't there. No.
Yeah. Once it gets into technical stuff, it's not as exciting as.
It's
Um,
basically reading like every paragraph and seeing if Cosmopolis is mentioned in there. So far.
Okay, that's all I got.
Councilmember Carlisle. Councilmember Moffitt.
I agree with you with, Halloween. It's nice to see the kids coming back, and it was definitely better than last year, although last year was great too, but. And I heard that from several, well, a few instances, so that was nice.
Is the second public comment period. If any member of the public would like to comment. We just ask that you state your name and speak loudly so that the owl and the public can hear.
Surplus of the vote, does that mean you're going to sell it or you're going to give it away?
We're going to put it on Gov Deals. It's a government surplus website, and so then it would be open for bidding for people, similar to we've done with vehicles. It's an auction.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
good. I wanted to find out if positively sure. Thank you.
My name is McNall Mason and I'm new to Cosmopolis. And so I have a question about the technology decisions that you made. And whether or not you vet more than one solution, or do you depend on your vendor to give you the solution that they think, or how does that happen so that I as a citizen know that you're making the best financial decision for technology?
As far as the software, we've looked at multiple software. The bias software that was mentioned is kind of I wouldn't say universal, but a very widely used. It just so happens that these kind of work with them a lot of times, and it's already integrated into the OS, so to speak. So we've looked at other ones, and these are the ones that are very highly touted, speaking to other cities and other county and government, and this is the one that is recommended. Or these are the ones that are recommended, but yeah, we're not just picking the
I
top
just
ones.
was curious.
Yeah.
how that happened. All right, I got one, might be too probably. but my name's Sue Darcy and just moved up. the hill. So we're right at the Alder Drive there, it's kind of where there's a, looks like a slide area. So it's like right at the end where the property is right there, and then there's that slide area that looks like the road's cracking. It is cracked. So, yeah, it is, and it goes, continues down on the lower part too. So my question is there like any like engineered reports about like the stability of that in any way? Because there's been a guy, volunteer guy, who was out there like all summer, trying to, for quite some time, packing dirt and stuff, but the question is like, is he doing more damage or actually helping them? Because it's, to me, it's saturated and you want to not put weight on it.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's a volunteer guy, so I'm just kind of curious on what, if there's any reports on the stability of that. Because it is threatening properties.
There's no engineering report. The last time we had an engineer look at that was probably 7 to 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And at that time, we noticed, and it's been shifting probably for the last 30 years.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, it looks like it's.
I've been here 35, and it's been slowly moving. And what we found out at that time, we would have to get a geotechnical
Right,
engineer and come in and drill down,
yeah,
like Causey Hill,
Oh,
same scenario.
Yeah.
Coming up with funds for that
yeah,
has been the problem.
right. I mean,
Um,
the cracks look like, obviously as it rains more, the water gets in the cracks and spreads it out more. And so then it gets saturated and the whole thing, so. Maybe before that happens. Which I'm not really for that, because I would actually, if I lived across the street from it, I would be more worried of the person that lives across the street, because that's what's
Yeah.
gonna go.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be
Yeah,
scary and cause us a lot of problems.
we don't want,
I
we
just
just
have
don't want
concern-
so happening together or anything, yeah,
My concern is that the citizen, the neighbor of ours is tending to it, but
yeah.
does he actually know?
He's an engineer.
He's a surveyor.
And
He was just fixing the trail. Which is,
He brought in a whole bunch of dirt there on top and
2
burned it
weeks
up.
back and forth, yeah.
are you talking about the trail going down the stairs?
No,
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 I'm talking about. up
right where
on-
the crack is.
But the road, yeah.
Yeah,
up
on the
above,
road.
Yeah.
right before
Shoulder.
the stairwell there at
Yeah,
that corner.
shoulder.
Yeah.
Our house is like
Yeah.
the last
Yeah.
house on the right hand side as you're going around that corner.
So on that actual shoulder, he
So
spent
the
like
whole-
2 weeks back and forth.
Not just the stair
Dumping
area,
dirt.
Oh.
all the way
Yeah.
back
Yeah,
and
yeah.
firming it up.
Oh, no. Yeah,
Yeah,
right
all
on
the-
Alder.
all the
That's the start of it all.
Yeah, it
Alder
is, yeah,
Drive.
that's why we were worried, because he kept, and then he'd
Yeah.
drive
Yeah.
over it to pack.
Yeah, patching it over right back.
And I'm like,
and
is he gonna just-
Yeah, and
Yeah.
multiple.
And that was a lot to do with maintenance, trying to keep the grass and the stick bushes.
Yeah. Yeah, but
But I figured that to where you can mow.
yeah, he just brought in a whole ton of dirt and then.
But then a whole bunch of rain came and then it's
And
like,
you can see where it washed it, washed it right out.
I mean,
So,
Is that something where you could,
yeah, check with Ed. and
Well-
see.
the last time that engineer came out, is that someone you could call back and say, hey, just want to kind of update since it's been so many years
Yeah.
since you looked at it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can have him. He doesn't work for a consultant anymore. He works for a city around here. But I know he would come look at it for us.
I mean, I know all of
Give
this
us-
drive.
Is that-
around it.
Yeah,
I'm
so
just gonna
sometimes,
start
like,
calculating.
I know in the past. In my other life, I've called in favors to. The other state departments and they'll come check it out.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do and we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I see it.
Talk with him, just
Let you know. when-
Jeff might have that.
Yeah.
We don't want to, I know he's trying to help.
Oh, yeah. oh,
yeah,
We don't wanna make-
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's good. It just seemed that it was like,
I don't want to
he's
fall down.
putting more, yeah, or more weight in the situation. Think we want.
And we kind of alleviated that with all the trees that we cut down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Years ago, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
that's.
Well, I just had one fell on the backside of that hill, fell, but it was super dead, just.
Yeah.
fell in there, you know. And then
We just had our big cherry tree trimmed back,
Yeah, it was,
like coming.
but, yeah, so that was the road.
Perfect. So with that, the 7:58. Call the meeting closed.